Hi everyone, it's Shane.
Hello, this is Erin, and welcome to Everything EFL.
Disclaimer, we are by no means experts in the subject that we choose to talk about.
Speak for yourself.
Okay, but we do know our stuff, and credit will be given for the ideas we take where possible. Today we are doing a podcast that I hope we would never send to someone for a job interview, but this is kind of just to make everyone feel at ease. There's been a huge uptake in teachers recently, people who've joined the ESL profession. People are studying online, they're getting online courses, people are losing their jobs. It's all gone mad, and we're all becoming English teachers. And a lot of people have a big problem with grammar. Erin and I have been English teachers since the Ice Age.
Feels like it. Yeah, but there's always stuff that confuses us. Like most of the time, if you go, okay, what's the rule for this, or why is this, I'll be able to go A, B, C, D, there you go, here's an example, bosh. But there are just a few things where I would definitely have to refer back to my grammar book before giving like an answer, and I would have to have that with me in class. Do you have the same sort of things?
Yeah, I would never say that there's a grammar point that I don't know, because we've probably taught all of them, even up to like C2 level proficiency.
Yeah.
But there are points that I'm like, wait, what? Like, what? Oh, I know I've done it. Can I give you an example?
Yeah, go.
For students, like, okay, I know what a relative clause is, obviously. What do you call them? Defining and non-defining relative clause. If someone might give me an example of it, I don't.
You'd have to check.
Yeah, I would have to kind of refer to it again. I did offhand a non-defined where I have been. I don't know. I actually can't remember it.
Okay. So what I basically do is, a non-defining is where if you are adding extra information, it goes in commas. So you could say Britney Spears went shopping, okay? And you could say Britney Spears, comma, who is 35, comma, went shopping. So that information between commas isn't necessary.
Okay.
You can take it out.
That's a non-defining. Yes. Yeah, exactly. And defining is you need it in order to make the sentence.
Yeah, absolutely. With relative clauses, there's a couple of things that really confuse me. And again,
I hate relative clauses.
They're not fun to teach.
There
are definitely some grammar points that are not fun to teach.
They're boring.
Yeah, this is one of them. But like, there's that rule where you can omit the relative pronoun. So you could say, that's the house that I grew up in, or you could say, that's the house I grew up in, and omit that.
Okay.
And I know the rule, it's written down. I've got a lovely little presentation to show students, but I have to put that presentation on the board and explain it rather than just explaining it.
Okay, yeah, because it's when you can omit the pronoun when it's like the object of a sentence.
Or the subject. See?
Yeah.
It's really like, it's one of them. And I think I'm not the only one, but it is very confusing, and I have to have the graphics there in order to explain it.
I feel though as well, one thing that's important to point out is if you are a native speaker of English, and we do want to make a podcast in the future about native and non-native and how natives are somehow regarded as superior, which is completely inaccurate. But we don't learn English in a grammatical way. So I remember when I was studying French and someone was like, what's the subject of the sentence? What's the object? And I was like, I don't understand. I don't understand what the hell they're going on about. Subject, like geography. Like, it didn't really resonate. So I think that can be quite daunting for teachers. But this is basically just to say, guys, like, look at us. We're both incredible, and we get confused over stuff. I mean,
we're almost perfect,
but still, yeah, relative clauses. You open your book on a Monday morning and you're like, that and which and who, and I'm like, oh.
And then there's the other thing where, like, where is used for places.
Yes.
But sometimes in spoken English, we would use that. Because it makes more sense, and actually putting where doesn't make sense. And again, it's a rule about location or something. And again, I've got it written down. I've got some nice examples, but I can't just tell you off the top of my head what the rule is.
No, I don't know.
And I think that's also to do with age. Like the older I get, the less likely I am to remember stuff. I have to have it written down.
I know another one. And I got caught out by a student. The sentence was, smoking is not permitted here.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, okay, smoking is a verb, but in this case, it's the subject of the sentence.
Yeah.
We generally use ing instead of the infinitive. And they started talking about transitive and intransitive verbs.
Right.
And I was like, oh, holy fuck, I don't know what that means.
Well, we don't use that term.
It's used in grammar, but I was just like, yeah, so in this case, it would sort of be like transitive on a Wednesday and then sort of like be a bit more settled than sort of the rest of the week. Do you know what I mean, Helen? Thanks. I didn't really know what it meant. And I think that was like a C2 class where I got caught out. But I know I've done it, I've thought it, but I have instantly forgotten it.
Yeah, isn't it transitive is when the verb has an object? So like I love him. You can't just say I love, like in some languages. You have to say I love something. That's a transitive. And then intransitive is no object.
I go.
For example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
that right? Is that right?
But also what we would love from this podcast is, this one is not necessarily super educational podcast, but we'd love you guys to share things that you find really confusing as well. Because we all do. You know, we all have that arsehole that sits in the corner of the teacher's room that pretends like they know everything, and they don't. They don't know everything. They get confused. They've crashed their car into a pollard.
Is that a metaphor, or they actually?
I crashed my car into a bollard.
Oh no! When?
It's €500 damage.
Oh, is that the same time it crashed into a ditch, or is that another?
Yeah, no, that was. Oh no, it wasn't. No, I dug it out of the ditch.
Right.
But I couldn't dig the bollard damage.
But they were two separate occasions.
Yes, Erin.
Okay. Oh dear. All right. Well, still a ways to go there.
There we go. Yeah, love a good academic tangent. What do you not know?
Well. What do we call them?
What do you not know?
So many things. Participle clauses. Again, I know what they are, but I would need my book next to me to explain present and past participle clauses. They're just a little bit confusing because there's also a rule with the passive that comes in there.
Yeah.
It's quite advanced. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go and Google it. It's not very interesting either, and that's probably why my brain isn't engaging with the rules. It's not interesting.
Okay, yeah. I think that's why I tend to not remember grammar when I don't think that it's interesting.
Yeah.
Like things like the one I love in advanced grammar is like I used to go to the shop as a child. As a child, I would go to the shop. I love that because it confuses the hell out of people, because you're like using a modal conditional as used to when it's a repeated action. I love that one. Yeah. And it's always stayed in my head because I love it. Whereas other ones like that and which, and I'm like, they're crappy words anyway. Like they're crappy words. Do you know? It's like when you paint, that and which are like the skirting board, or like they're like around the plug. Do you know what I mean? The words that are like just around at the bottom of the shelf, they're crap. We just want to just dunk the tub of paint over the wall. Do you know
Lovely
what I mean?
allegory there.
That was a really good one, I thought.
Yes, especially the plug. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Do you have another one, or how do you feel about reported speech?
I think it's pointless, but I like teaching it.
Yeah, I think it's point. I think there are so many more things you can teach that are useful for students, and I don't understand why it's always in an intermediate grammar book. Like,
it's a great way of reviewing tenses.
Actually, that's a really good point. It is.
Of course, it's a really good point. I just made it.
Well, yeah. But there are so many other ways you can review tenses as well. It's kind of pointless. We don't use it very much, but it does have one of my favorite games to play to practice it. But just introducing the rules. There are so many little finicky rules to do with time and pronouns.
What was the example you gave earlier? She's. I have done it.
No, what is it? She did it yesterday, and then she said she had done it the day before. So you're changing the pronoun, you're adding a reporting verb, and you're changing the time phrase. And it's just very finicky and fiddly. And for the amount that students actually use it, I just think it's fecking pointless. But again, it's one of those things where I need to kind of read up on it before I go into class.
Okay, yeah. I think, yeah, you need to it's a good review of the tenses. And the time clauses get confusing because you kind of get confused with, do you know what I get confused with? Vocabulary is family. I know this sounds really stupid, not like mother, father, but like which is which. But like if someone is like, when you kind of, I think it's like mathematics that I get confused. That like,
you're really not making this clear. What are you confused about?
Do you know how you're related to people?
Yeah.
That can be confusing.
Please give me an example.
Like you. Like I'm from a big fan. Like I've got second cousins, like once removed,
okay,
and like third cousins, and I'm like, I don't know how.
I don't know. I don't think anyone knows what that means, though.
And then if you're married and then you get like divorced, is that still your aunt? But they're divorced and it's not a blood relative, so it's like your, you know. And then if they have another kid, then it's your cousin's half brother, but it's not
Okay.
yours. I often find in those scenarios, I'm like, it becomes mathematics rather than it becomes like an equation. Then I'm like, wait, hang on, because I come from rural Catholic Ireland in the 90s where everyone had a million kids and no one ever got divorced. So
It's a good point.
get that really confuses me.
Yeah.
And I don't really think the term half brother is a nice thing to say.
But it's the way, I mean, I don't know any other way of saying it. And you're actually right. I mean, society has changed. There are, you know, divorces, separations, blended families. There's a lot more vocab to go into family vocabulary now, actually.
But yeah, that kind of
Yeah.
confuses me. And a non-grammar point.
Yeah.
Any other grammar ones for you?
Yeah, well, it's not that I don't know the rules, but again, it's so fiddly and finicky that you definitely have to have the rules next to you to make sure that you've got them all. But comparatives and superlatives, especially comparatives.
Oh, I love that.
Pain in the arse. There are so many little rules, whether it's 2 syllables or 1 syllable, and then you've got the exceptions.
I think there's just loads of exceptions.
But like students really struggle with it, and I just find it a little bit boring, and they never get it. They never get it.
Oh, I love it. Superlatives. I do Donald Trump's speeches.
Good one. I mean, look, I'm not saying there's not loads of really good activities you can do. There are, but it's just getting the rules down. It's just there's so many of them. There really are.
Okay.
And
yeah.
it's
Also, I
just
think you can
takes forever.
incorporate. You get students' opinions on like, you give them like their hometown, their capital city. And then Dublin be like, which city is like the nicest, which city is the cleanest, which is the most beautiful, and then they always put Dublin at the bottom for all the negative stuff, and it's quite funny. Okay,
which is you know, giving Dublin a bad rap, really. You know, it's not perfect.
Here's a question: is it okay to say I don't know to a student?
You mean if they ask you like a grammar question?
Yeah, because we're talking about stuff that we don't know. Is it okay to be like, yeah, I don't know?
Absolutely. I mean, I would always be very honest with my students, and I would say to them, can I get back to you? Or I'm just going to write that down and ask a colleague. Or can I tell you tomorrow? I just want to do a bit of research to make sure that I give you the right answer. So I would generally avoid saying I don't know, but I would write it down in front of them and say, I'm going to look at this and come back to you. Is that okay? And then they always say yes, and they always seem happy with that.
Okay.
And then you just have to remember to do it, because there's been loads of times where I've just said, yeah, I'll tell you tomorrow, and then I've completely forgotten, and then it doesn't get addressed.
Okay. But
that's me, because I'm very what's the word, absent-minded sometimes when it comes to stuff like that.
Terrible.
Oh, awful teacher, awful. Anything else?
Particles.
Phrasal verbs. Are you talking about phrasal verbs?
The particle of it, yeah. So hang on a second. Do you know what a phrasal verb is? It is a verb and a preposition.
Yes.
I get confused because if you Google it, they often say it's a verb and an adverb.
An adverb or a preposition, yeah.
And they call it, so they basically just say it's a verb and a particle.
Yeah, and the particle can be an adverb or a preposition.
That's a load of shite. It's a verb and a preposition. What the hell is a particle? It's not science. I
mean, I've tried to look for examples of adverbs and I can't personally, so I generally just sort of ignore that and I just say verb plus preposition.
Yeah, there are 2 books, I think Headway and Cutting Edge, I may be wrong, that describe phrasal verbs in that way, and the student is always like, can you give me an example of a phrasal verb with a verb and an adverb? And I'm like,
no.
So if we just look out the window here, we're going to see look out the window. See what I did there?
Good one.
But it's a verb and a preposition, or a verb and 2 prepositions.
Yeah.
Can someone enlighten us? Can you tell us a phrasal verb with a verb and an adverb?
I mean, maybe some prepositions also masquerade as adverbs. I don't know, but I just think
quickly is not a phrasal verb.
No.
That's a verb and an adverb.
Yeah.
It isn't a phrasal verb.
No. So again, yeah, maybe there is something that we're just not seeing, but I'm not really sure it's that useful for students to say it could be an adverb as well. Like, because I've never seen it. I've never recognised a phrasal verb as a verb and an adverb. So yeah, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, and then I think the last one that I have a lot of trouble with is just nouns.
Elaborate?
Just nouns, like
just nouns.
I don't know what a noun is.
Oh right. Oh.
I'm joking. That was a joke. I know what a noun is. You were just about to explain what
a noun is.
You were so about to explain what a noun is to me.
I just didn't know where you were going with it.
Okay.
You do tend to go off on these mad tangents, so
No,
I wasn't quite sure. I was waiting for it.
I do think it is sometimes quite funny if you have a good rapport with students, is when they ask a really basic question just to be like, yeah, I have no idea. But then obviously answer it like later. But I think that's kind of funny sometimes. Yeah.
Do you do that? Do you do that?
I do that quite a bit.
Aww.
So guys, please follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. And if you like us, then share and subscribe. And on Spotify, Google
Pods,
and Apple.
Okay.
Okay. Bye guys.
Bye.